spiritual logic, emotions, and neural pathways, connections in the brain. A lot of people think that they will get to a certain state of being through working on their emotions. But tell me, how many more meditations do you think you need before you finally get there spiritually? Before you feel at peace, serene, connected? What do you think you need more of? Do you need more healing? Do you need to feel more love? To detach from your desire a little more? Maybe you just need to be more present. Let's work on being more present, more mindful, maybe more aware. You see, what if the real reason you don't feel spiritually fulfilled is not because you haven't felt enough, but because you haven't built the right neural connections yet? Neural connections, it's actually easy. It's the internal path your brain uses to understand life. Your brain is constantly asking, what's the fastest way to understand what's happening and how to survive it? So it builds roads, shortcuts. For example, you see someone who's smiling, you think, oh, she's friendly. It's not necessarily true, but that's the equation that your brain has built. So soon you don't even think anymore. You just move, you just go with it. And it's really useful most of the time. And most of the time, you drive those roads on autopilot, just like taking the same route to go to work and come back. You don't think about it, you just drive it. Those paths, they shape all kinds of things, your whole well being, because they shape your emotions, your reactions, your sense of peace or anxiety. Emotions don't appear out of nowhere, they are the body's response to what the brain believes is happening. The roads are not emotions, they are interpretation patterns. They are, oh, what does this mean? What should I expect? What should I do? Those patterns then generate emotions in the body. And most of them were built long before you ever chose them. So when something happens, your brain doesn't stop to reflect. It instantly applies the meaning it already knows. And that meaning is what create the emotions you feel. It always takes the road it already knows. So you're kind of caught in a loop. And spiritually, it's the same thing because your brain is not designed to make you happy. It is designed to keep you alive. That's different. So it builds internal maps of reality. Your reality and my reality, how we interpret things, is not the same. I have a boyfriend, and I can tell you that the way we see life is not the same. And it's because of those maps. And they're not made of ideas, they are made of neural connections. And those are built through every time you think, every time you interpret something, every time your body reacts to something. Well, your neurons fire. And neurons that fire together wire together, and it becomes a road. That's what your thoughts pattern will become. And that is how the brain decides. This, you label it as dangerous. This, safe. This, love. And so on. And it can even be generalizations like men are or women are. Um, this is what I should expect from life, and so on. So most of us didn't consciously choose those maps. See, they were built through childhood, relationships, religions, culture, trauma, survival. And now those maps run your emotional life, not because they are true, but because they are familiar. They are shortcuts you've learned to take over and over again. Neural pathways form through repetition. Those are the ones you've taken over and over again. Movement and meaning, thoughts, images, bodily postures, and decisions activate those circuits. Emotions do not create these pathways by itself, it amplifies them. That's different, right? Emotion is biochemical feedback. It's a feedback produced by an interpretation. If I think that you are a mean person because you don't smile, and that's the interpretation that I make, my emotion will back it up, will amplify it. What is learned, what your brain is storing, is not the feeling but the conclusion. What the nervous system decides reality means. Therefore, trauma happens when an overwhelming event forces the conclusion that no one is not safe. That one is not safe. No one is not safe. That was cute. Um, See, even one single moment can be enough to be wired if the system keeps replaying it. And most of the time it will, because it got so hurt or so scared or whatever it is that it replays it over and over again because it wants to remember, to never forget that this particular situation means danger or pain. A trauma is a locked conclusion about reality. And this is why so many spiritual teachings miss something crucial. See, when I'm talking about trauma, and that's where it's going to link things, because the spiritual teachings don't necessarily address the nervous system. They tell you to feel love, to trust, to surrender, to be in the now. But even though they're right, how do you want to do that when you just can't because your nervous system is saturated? They forget something very important. Your nervous system will not relax until what you believe about reality becomes coherent and credible, until you give it a reason to believe it. You can't just tell a scared animal, hey, you know what? Trust me, I'm bringing you to the vet. It needs to understand it's safe. And that's why you talk to your pet, you soothe it, you show that it can trust you, and you build that relationship. Inside every human being, there is an animal. We're mammals, a beautiful one, a sensitive one, and most of the time, a terrified one, too. It's not stupid, it's protective. It watches for danger, scans for rejection, anticipates loss, stresses, get anxious. And when it doesn't feel safe, it takes over. So you withdraw, you cling, you attack, you freeze, you overthink, you overanalyze, you want to be perfect. Not because you're broken, but because something inside you believes that existence itself is dangerous. A spirituality that ignores this animal within becomes fantasy because you float above your humanity. You're no longer a soul having a human experience, but a human trying to escape back into being a soul. You just want to get the out of here, right? Spirituality that understands it becomes freedom. It learns to enjoy your own beauty in your human form, here and now. So when your belief system becomes coherent, the nervous system lets go. And that's when you can touch serenity and the wonder of humanity, because it's a wonderful experience if you make the appropriate neural connections in your brain, if you make it logical so you can relax. Okay? So you don't touch those states. You don't touch serenity and peace because your life becomes easy, but because life becomes trusted. This is where my work is different. I don't ask you to feel safe, to feel more gratitude. I wish you will be able to, because those are beautiful emotions. But it's like starting in reverse. Do you understand? Like I adopted a stray cat, and it was really unsafe for a very long time. I didn't tell him feel safe and then I'm going to feed you. I fed him. I approached him very gently, calmly, and it started feeling safe. So it's the same thing. I ask you to build a worldview that makes safety logical so you can let go. If you believe in a loving source, an unconditionally loving source, then the conclusion is unavoidable. See, if source is unconditionally loving and we arise from source, then we cannot be anything other than love. Even when we forget, even when we don't act from it, or when we're confused. And above all, we are unconditionally loved, no matter what we do. And we're forgiven for whatever mistake we've done. And once you really believe that, your body can begin to relax. Not because nothing hurts, but because you have given it a reason to feel held, even when in pain, even when you don't know what will happen, even when fear appears. Because your axis has shifted. See, most people live from life is dangerous, I must protect myself. And that belief wires the brain for emotions like anxiety, control, and eventually collapse. So they feel peaceful on the yoga mat and shattered in real life, and they cannot bring that peace into their ordinary life. Spiritual logic offers a different axis. I choose to believe in an unconditionally loving higher power. If that is true, then I trust. And if I trust, I am safe, no matter what life brings. Same world, different meanings, different nervous systems. And this is the secret. Spiritual peace is not a feeling, it is a state of coherence. It happens when your beliefs, your body, and your perception of reality stop contradicting each other. Then the inner war ends. Not because nothing hurts, but because nothing is interpreted as a threat to your being, to your nature. Serenity is not something you create, it is what remains when nothing inside you is fighting, when nothing is fighting reality as it is. Here's an example. Eckhart Tolle, the author of The Power of Now, he was really in pain. Like his thoughts were really painful, and he even became like suicidal at one point, if my memory is correct. And one night, it was so intense and so hard that his brain shut down. Like his mind just collapsed. And when it did, what remained was the silent witness, presence, peace, a vast, loving awareness. You don't need to suffer like that. You don't need to have your brain crash that way. You need coherence. And that coherence will bring quietness in your mind. So if you're spiritual but still anxious, still reactive, still exhausted, it may not it's not because you're failing. It's because your brain is still running on an old map. Well, the good news is maps can be redrawn through thought, through meaning, repetition, even activities, even like postures. It's a commitment that you've got to take. And then it's to embody that trust. Your see your nervous system will always try to go back to the roads it knows. The old neural highways are seductive. They are familiar. They are fast. They promise relief now. Fear feels justified. Anger feels powerful. And withdrawal feels safe. Not standing in your presence. But that's why it's a commitment because you don't get fit because you go to the gym once. You get fit because you do it again and again and again. So you don't build a new inner world from a single moment of decision, clarity, or coherence. You have to make that choice every day. So spiritual logic is the discipline of returning again and again to the axis you choose. I believe in unconditional love. Therefore, I will live as if it were true, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you're triggered, even when fear feels justified. And that is not bypassing, that is embodied choice. Because you cannot bypass anything. You've got to be brutally honest with yourself. It's a dedication path, right? It's the courage to build a reality that your nervous system can finally believe in. And when that happens, peace is no longer something you chase, it becomes what you stand on. Peace is your nature. Peace is who you are when you're at peace. So the only real question is what kind of logic are you teaching your brain to live in? I know that peace is the only thing left when you're at peace may not sound that logical, but when you're coherent, if you prefer, when you're coherent, you're at peace. Okay. So what kind of logic are you teaching your brain to live in? Because if you say you believe in an unconditionally loving higher power, well, do your beliefs actually make it possible to live as if that were true? Neural pathways don't change because you want them to. They change when a belief feels coherent, credible, and aligned with the deepest thing you say you trust. That's what I help you build. Not positive thinking. That's another thing. Not positive thinking, because positive thinking doesn't create new neural pathways when your whole being knows it isn't coherent. You can repeat a sentence 1,000 times, but if your nervous system feels it's BS or that it doesn't make sense, you don't build trust. You build inner contradiction. And inner contradiction wires the brain for doubt, not for peace. Your brain doubts you. Your own nervous system is like telling you that you're lying. I'm thin, and you're 30 pounds overweight. Well, I'm thin. Your brain is like, well, I see you. You're not that thin. So you doubt yourself. You're not going to the peaceful state, right? So, what creates new pathways is a belief that feels logically true, aligned with what you believe to be your nature, and coherent enough to be lived in your everyday life and to make your life enjoyable, fulfilling. You are unconditionally loved. And then you build a structure of belief so aligned with the nature of unconditional love that trusting it becomes non negotiable. And living from love becomes your way of being. So I really want to welcome you to Spiritual Logic because that's what we're going to build together. I'm going to share with you how to discipline your mind, how to make those neural pathways work for you, for the states you're looking for. And thank you for listening. I really appreciate it.